How you guys doing? Welcome back. Guys, I don't know if you remember, but there was a particular comic series that was somewhat newer and then it just came out not that long ago, and I really did fall in love with it. Every single thing about it. The story was great, the art awesome, the nudity, gotta say, quite tasteful and quite enjoyable. And imagine my pleasant surprise when the creators' promises that the series would come back actually came to fruition because, yes, as you may have heard from the title of this video, Gun Honey is back. Now, as I mentioned just a moment ago, this is the second series of this particular character, franchise, whatever it would be called. So this is the second series, and it's a direct continuation of the first story. I loved the first story. If you didn't see my videos about the first story, go watch them, then buy the comics, and then come and let me know what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts on it, but I want you to at least read it because that's what I'm all about here, getting people to read books, specifically comics. That's always been my mission goal. So that's why we're here to talk about the first issue of the second series of Gun Honey. And I gotta tell you, right from the get-go, I was already hooked. So let's go ahead and stop my yammering and we'll look at the actual comic pages, yes? Okay, so we're starting here, and as you've known from any good mystery novel or Scooby-Doo episode, the best mysteries always start at some gigantic haunted looking kind of mansion, right? So apparently we are 40 miles outside of Bell Creek, Montana. I've never been to Montana, and as far as I know, nobody else has either. So we're going to take their word that this is probably somewhere in Montana. We can see, if you remember from the first series or watching my videos, this is basically Joanna, the main character, also known as Gun Honey. This is her look, you know, the all black with the motorcycle helmet and everything. So we see climbing up on the roof, cutting into it, and then going in to do what Gun Honey does, which is hide guns. In case you need the quick rundown, Gun Honey is known for getting guns into where they most usually aren't and where they need to be, usually to carry out an assassination of some sort. That's her whole thing. That's her specialty. That's what she's known for. That's what she gets paid a lot of money to do. This is basically the setup that we're getting here as we're starting out. But as we can see, there's a security guard who's looking at the monitor and notices that she's there, and he goes to reach for his gun, which is for some reason not strapped to his belt. It's on the desk, even though it looks like it's made to be strapped onto his belt. I mean, guys, come on now. Anyway, it's just a minor thing that I noticed right now that I was looking. I was like, wait, why isn't it on his belt if it looks like it could be? Whatever. It is what it is. He goes into the room with another security guard and says, "That's some gun, honey." Eh? Eh? We're having fun, right? You'll want to put it down real slow. So he says, "I said put it down." And then she jumps down and starts to basically throw this staircase at them, which, just a quick aside, this library that's drawn right here, I've always dreamed of having a library just like this, but filled with comics and, you know, graphic novels and, you know, omnibuy, whatever, filled with all of this type of stuff, the stuff that I talk about here on my channel. So yeah, that is a dream. I mean, it can have other books too. I do like other stuff, but this type of library, just straight out of my dreams. So I don't know how you did it. I don't know how the artist did it, but he pulled it straight out of my mind and put it here on the page. Just, I mean, I got to give kudos to that. As we can see, there's a shootout that ensues as, you know, she starts to escape. And then we can see the bullets ricocheting and everything. She gets out, and then we see where the visor is broken, and we can see, wait a minute, that's not Joanna. Because if you remember, Joanna has black hair and dark eyes. This person very obviously has blue eyes and blonde hair. So we're about to get into who this is in just a second, but we're pulling up in Malaysia, in Langkawi. I'm probably mispronouncing that, and anytime there's a Malaysian word in here, I'm probably going to mispronounce it. I'm just putting that as a disclaimer right here, because anytime I say anything wrong, just know I'm not Malaysian, as you can tell. Langkawi?
Langkawi.
So we're going into this and we can see where it's Brooke from the first series. He kind of is, I don't know what his official title is anymore because he at first was kind of like a detective. And then at the end of the first series, he got a major promotion to like I don't remember what the exact title was, but that's why I'm assuming he still has that or some similar title. I'm not sure. But anyway, we can see where he's pulling up to this very nice house, mansion, temple, something. And then we can see on iPad, iPad, that somebody's obviously watching him. We can see there's the narration saying, "You never expected to come back to this part of the world where you grew up. It wasn't safe, but you had to bring your brother back, lay him to rest beside your mother." Now that's one of those things that if you watch my first videos, the whole conceit in the first series was that there was a shadowy thing going on. There was a killer that she ended up needing to track down. Come to find out, it's actually her brother. So when that came out, then that led them on this other thing that leads to a further murder that we're actually about to find out more about here. So just to give you that quick background. It says, "You owed it to both of them, and the strangest thing happened then. You decided to stay, for a while anyway, but nothing lasts forever." And so here's the thing. I can't show all of everything that's in this book. YouTube would be very upset with me. So I'm going to have to unfortunately obscure things from your view. I say unfortunate because, well, you'll see. He's walking in and she greets him as she's, playing with the cat. One thing I do have to make note of as well, I noticed this and I made note of it on my Twitter. This collection on the floor, I'm not sure why she has that, because I'm assuming she's been by herself. I don't know why she has this exact collection, by her little bench or whatever. But you know what? I'm no one to kink shame, so let her do her. Another thing I noticed in there is the Money Shot magazine that's in the bottom right corner. I can see that it has the Hard Case Crime logo on it, so I don't know if that's a future book that's going to be coming. I don't believe it's a book they've done in the past. And then there's also Gun Honey issue number 1 also sitting there. Anyway, Brooke is saying that she's been keeping busy and she's hoping it's a social call, but he says he wish it was. But she reminds him that she's still on holiday, vacation. And he says, "It's been 7 months." She says, "So? I don't have a boss. No one's counting my vacation days. Unless you're nominating yourself for the job. Now that Lydia Morse is gone." So this is where we're about to get into that whole thing. He says, "No, I promised you a clean slate, and I meant it. But the world doesn't stand still just because you're off the grid. You haven't been in Montana lately, have you?" And she says, "Montana?" He starts telling her the whole thing. Someone using your MO broke into the home of a man named Michael Leonard, an information broker, one of our longtime sources. She fled when security started shooting, left this behind. And she says, "Not so good at the job, is she?" He says, "Unless she wanted it to be found." And then as she's looking at it, she realizes she knows who actually made the gun. She says his name is Saeed in Johor. Not, again, if I'm mispronouncing any words, I don't even know where this one's supposed to be. We'll find out in a second. But if I'm mispronouncing any words, mea culpa. Anyway, she says, "Not 90 minutes from here." He says, "And you to be blamed." She asks, "Who is she?" And he says, "That's the thing. I'm not sure, but if it's who I think it is, I can't trust anyone in my organization to go after her." So that's when she puts it together that obviously this person must work for him. He says, "I think she used to." Philippa Sterling, Director Morse's brightest protege. She was there watching when your brother shot her, executed her for what she did to her family, she corrects. He says she quit the agency a week later. No one's seen her since Lydia's funeral. So she's telling him, "You didn't just fly halfway around the world just because someone broke into some snitch's house." He says he wasn't just some snitch, and she didn't just break in. She's asking, wasn't? And he says, "Well, yeah, because when she broke in, between the time that she broke in and when security found her, she actually managed to kill Leonard." He's telling her that it was 2 bullets, point blank range. So she's saying, "Oh, okay, so I'm also wanted for murder." He says, "You probably would be if the gun hadn't vanished from our evidence room," which makes sense since he brought it to her. So she's saying, "You're taking a big risk." He says, "I don't like to see someone innocent railroaded." She says, "Oh, well, I just thought you liked me." But as they get closer, he asks her, "So who is this guy, Saeed? Some top secret, clandestine, off-the-grid weapons maker?" And she's like, "Well, not exactly. As we can see, the sign says guns and bladed weapons." He's like, "Well, that's subtle." But as it's moved, it says it's actually miscellaneous props for film production, which makes a lot of sense. If you're going to make unique weapons, that, you don't want people tracing back to an actual murder, the best place to probably store those is in a prop house, because they would have a reason to have a bunch of like really strange weapons that you wouldn't assume anyone's going to use for a murder, right? As they're walking up, he notices her and says, Joanna. And then, they go over and embrace and everything. So she's telling him that she needs help. And he says, okay, well, whatever you need. She says, someone's trying to frame me for murder using one of your guns, one of your real ones. So she gives it to him. He says, this one's actually part of a set, a pair of identical guns. I sold them to a collector, must have been 6 months ago. So Brooke comes up and asks him, was it a woman about my height, blonde hair, American? He says, no idea. We handled it all online. And then he asks, who are you, by the way? So he turns to her and asks, who is he? Someone special? She says that he's someone she trusts, which is special enough. Then she says, listen, I need to know anything you remember about the person who ordered these guns. He says, all I've got is a shipping address. It was in South. And then all of a sudden, Brooke yells out, get down, because I guess he sees someone take this shot that actually hits him straight through the throat, which is pretty damn metal. Gotta give y'all props for that too. So he finishes it by saying that, it was someone in South Dakota. So as he falls over dead, she tries shooting at the person, and then Brooke at first says, I'll get her, but she says, no, you get an ambulance. I'm going after her. So she takes off running, of course, and we're going to this Kerman Studios. And then I have to make note of this because we're about to see something that actually distracted me. But if you'll notice, this character here basically looks like a He-Man, I guess, a Malaysian He-Man. But then I also immediately noticed, because I am a cigarette smoker, and anytime you see a sign like this with the crumpled cigarette, regardless of what language it's in, we all know what it means. It means my kind is neither welcome nor tolerated. She's running in there and he's telling her, this is a closed set. We're filming here. It says, an ambulance? He was dead before he hit Joanna's arms. There's no helping him anymore, but he might still be able to help. So as we can see, there's the two of them running in the background, but in the foreground, we actually get, the shot. And, the first time I was reading through this, I legitimately was just distracted by what's going on in the foreground. Not even gonna lie. I'm into swords and sorcery type of stuff. So when I saw this, I was like, is this like Conan? Or is this like John Carter and, Deja Torres? I was just looking at it. I was mesmerized for a second. I forgot about the action in the background, which was the purpose. That was the intended purpose, as we're about to see. We see where she's running and she grabs a spear and throws it at the person running away, which is pretty lucky that, it wasn't just made out of rubber on the spearhead, because it does actually impale them and send them rolling. Turns around, throws a rock at her, but, she manages to avoid that. And then she sees another guy who's holding a sword and he's just like, here, take it. So she goes running up the ladder or whatever. And then we can see where, the person falls down. She goes over and takes the helmet off, and come to find out, oh, it wasn't even the blonde girl. It's not a girl at all. It's actually a dude. So she's asking, like, who the hell are you? Who paid you to shoot Saeed? And so that's when the cops finally come up saying, miss, let go and step back. She comes walking out after, I guess talking to the police and everything. And Brooke's just saying, nothing. She says, not one word. But he's not Philippa Sterling, that's for sure. So he says, that doesn't mean she wasn't behind it. She's a chess player. She's not shy about sacrificing a pawn. She says, sounds just like her old boss. Then he tells her he found a South Dakota shipping address in Saeed's papers, and that it's a stone's throw from the Montana border, which is where, Leonard was killed. And that's where he's saying, with Saeed's gun, left behind to incriminate you. There's got to be a connection. Someone who used both, Leonard for information and Saeed for guns. So she's saying, I thought she bought the guns from Saeed to incriminate me. He says, remember, chess player. She thinks 3 moves ahead and never does anything for just one reason. No, there's got to be a connection. And if Philippa found that connection in our files, I can find it too. That's when we go over to the next guy who's about to have a very bad day, as he's standing there finding out about the death of Saeed. That's right. I had to think about it for a second. Anyway, it says, dead? Are you sure? And then that's when his dude is telling him, yes, sir, shot to death outside his shop, which is how I remember it was Saeed. And then he says that it happened yesterday. He says, Jesus, first Michael, and now... But then he gets interrupted because his daughter comes up asking, which one should I wear? He says, sweetheart, isn't it time for your workout? She's like, well, sure, but for the dinner after. He says, rain check. Papa's dealing with a crisis. She's like, you're always dealing with a crisis, and just goes storming out. Now we go back over to Brooke, and Joanna as they're continuing to do their research. And he just says out loud, Alberto Giancaruso, the pharmaceutical guy, she says, isn't he funding cures for river blindness or whatever it is? He says, before Carnegie Hall, Andrew Carnegie was a robber baron. Bill Gates wasn't always Bill Gates. You ever hear of Bert and Ernie? She's like, the Muppets? He says, John Caruso and this guy Brighton, Ernest Brighton, they were known as Bert and Ernie, supplied drugs to every major rave in the years leading up to Y2K. And she's like, well, how would I know this? I was 7 in 2000 and same. And he said, she's telling him, you were what, 11 and going to raves? He says 15. And their last rave made headlines. Ernie cooked up some turbocharged version of ecstasy. Bert just did the sales, claimed he had no idea what Ernie had done. 47 people died. So she's asking, how'd he get from that to curing river blindness? He says an excellent PR firm. Millions donated to charity. Meanwhile, Ernie's still on the run. Somewhere out west is our best guess. So she's saying, like Montana. That's when we go actually over to Milan, Italy, as we go back over to the young thing who's showed up at the gym and is realizing her trainer, Maria, isn't there. And the young blonde is telling her she came down with something. I'm subbing for her. So she says, fine by me. You look like you're in better shape than her anyway. She's like, yeah, slightly. So we can see where they're doing like, the exercises and everything. She's telling her you're almost done. 2 more reps and then you can hit the shower. So that's where we see the caption saying, you think Ernie is holding a grudge all these years later? He says, wouldn't you be? If you were living on the run, looking over your shoulder while your ex-partner is collecting humanitarian awards in Milan? She says, so what? Sterling quits your agency and goes to Ernie, offers to settle his old scores for a fee. He says Anne gets to settle her own score with you at the same time for getting your brother the gun he used to kill Lydia. So she's asking, well, then who's next on her hit list? He says someone even closer to Alberto, someone he needs, or someone he loves. And then he's asking her if she wants him to fly in lower. She flips him off and is like, you just worry about getting to South Dakota. And then she just drops out like a boss and shit. And of course we see, she parachutes down, manages to catch it on something on the building to help her rappel down and, infiltrate her way into the building. And saying, Joanna, Joanna, you make it too easy. And you were supposed to be the best. You killed one of his loyal security guards. Oh, he'll be mad at you for that, Joanna. So very mad. Until he sees what else you did. Why'd you have to go and kill his daughter, Joanna? And with a gun identical to the one you used in Montana. One you fired just yesterday in Johor. They won't find prints on the gun. Not after it's been washed clean like this. But they'll find powder residue on your hand, won't they? You're going to pay, Joanna. You're going to suffer. And then you're going to die. And that's where we get the that last little setup as the chess piece is knocked over. And that's our setup. I gotta say, like I said, right from the first issue, already into it again. I'm already sucked back into it. So I'm ready to see where this one's going to go. I actually already have the second issue. I will be doing a review for that one also soon. I probably won't be wearing this because I'm going to do it probably tomorrow. And I'll start on editing this video tonight. So, there's a process to all of this. And then the third issue actually is out already, or it's coming soon. I actually got contacted from the guys over at Hard Case Crime, and he actually asked me if they had been sending me the issues already. And I was like, no, sorry, but I got the first 2. So they're supposed to be sending me the third issue and hopefully the fourth as well. And I'm going to be doing reviews on all of them. Because like I said, I love this series. It's such a cool concept. I love like the action and the mystery and everything in there. And that's what we have for this. I'm ready to see where this is going to go. I am so excited about it. I hope you are too. If you have not started picking up this series, I highly recommend that you do so. I really do, because this series is absolutely worth it, at least in my opinion. If you like, mystery type of stuff, action, intrigue, and, seeing some very nicely breasted women, I think this could be for you. But now that we've gotten that out of the way, I do also want to mention one other thing. I am actually also involved in an ongoing project. If you can, please go and check out our project. We have a Güey that's coming out. As you can see, I should have pictures up right now showing you some of the artwork from it. This is a project that I am very much passionate about because this is something that I'm also going to be involved with. I'm actually doing an interview in it. A lot of it is a collaborative effort as far as like stories and stuff. So, it's definitely something to check out. I personally highly recommend it. I think you're going to love it. Go and check out the website. It's a private site. It's for us. We're trying to build something new here. So I highly recommend you go and check that out as well. I think you're going to love it. If you like the type of stuff that you've seen from my channel, you're going to enjoy this. So go and check it out. Also check out Comics Güey. That's also a YouTube channel that I'm involved with a bunch of other awesome guys, writers, artists. We have a whole lot in there. Go and check that out as well, because I know you're going to love it. If you like seeing my content, and if you've ever seen me on any streams, it's basically the same thing when I stream with them, but there's more people. So go and check that out. Subscribe to our channel. Go and check out the zine. If you can, purchase yourself a copy. Purchase some for your friends and family if you want. But if you cannot back it, I completely understand, but maybe share it out to your friends and family who might also be interested. That's another way that you can help me out, and I definitely do appreciate it. But now that I've done the sales pitch and the review, I think there's only one thing left for us to say, and that's that if you're done here, I need you to go and read a book. And if not, then I'll see you on the next video. Lang Kawaii.